IPAs, pale ales, stouts, craft beers are taking over the taps. This trend is growing from pints to growlers, but so is the craft behind these crafts.
We're sitting around drinking and doing what I call R&D, research and drinking. And so we were talking about it, and the next day it's like, do we actually agree to open a brewery,
That's exactly what happened to Mark Stillman and Eric Lumen, who owned Green Room Brewing. They knew what they would sell.
So the Head High IPA was really our flagship. So we knew we were coming out with the flagship IPA, which in craft beer, you really need a solid IPA.
A very bitter beer, but also a local favorite. Once they had the basics brewed, they started experimenting.
We'll have our brewers back here and we'll talk about it, but it's just, hey, why don't we try this? And that's where some of our beers came from, like our Count Chocula. And it's like, why don't we try, putting some chocolate in in our stout?
These recipes weren't just whipped up in a kitchen.
So our brewing process starts out with malt. Okay.
It's a long process with some pretty big appliances, so let me break it down for you.
This is the first step of our brewing process, and what we do is we take malts and they get added into this hot water tank, and it creates essentially a giant tea bag that we can use for step 2 here, where we're going to drop that in there, and we're going to add some more hot water. We're also going to add hops to it. That's going to create the nice bitter flavor that you get in a lot of your IPAs and your pale ales. Then we're going to move it into one of our flavoring tanks. From here, we can create something that's unique, such as a chocolate flavor, a tangerine flavor, or anything that you really set your mind to.
And lastly,
we're going to put it over here, and we're going to bubble CO2 up through it.
Then it's ready for a keg.
You can go to a brewery and they have great beer. Or you can take water, your blank canvas, and you can kind of create something yourself.
That's why Gary Solomon is a home brewer and works at this home brewing shop, Just Brew It. He's been making beer for 8 years. He doesn't have the big tanks like Green Room.
We have a single tier 3-burner system, all stainless tanks.
Don't worry, they sell starter kits as well as all the ingredients, from grains to malts to hops, even if you have never brewed before.
We have a lot of people that come in and they brew once and they're just hooked. Like, once it gets in your blood, you kind of can't get it out.
Solomon says homebrewers do it for fun, to enter contests like the Florida First Cup, or for profit. But in the end, it's all about the beer.
You do have a lot of people that are getting into it to try to make it a business. But the best beer are usually made for the people, by the people that are passionate about it.
Mark Judson, inside Jacksonville.